Hello and welcome to this video in which I'm going to count down 5 of the very best Judge Dredd stories for you. If you're new to Dredd or thinking about how to get into Dredd, these are good places to start. And we're starting with Sob Story. This story is just a slim but perfect slice of Dredd's world. It's credited to John Howard, which is one of Dredd creator John Wagner's many pseudonyms, and it's beautifully captured by artist Ron Smith. Mega City 1 is a cluttered and claustrophobic place. In Mega City 1, the top-rated TV show is Sob Story, hosted by the perfectly judged Johnny Teardrop, grinning through fake tears as he plays up to the various folks who complain about how awful their lives are on live TV to attract donations. He's a combination of a British lovey and Simon Cowell, some 20 years before the reality TV explosion killed television. Sometimes it feels like Wagner is a pop culture Nostradamus. The problem is that Sob Story attracts money, and lots of it, sent to its contestants, which makes them attractive targets for murdering thieves who then put their mobile homes on automatic pilot and the bodies drive around the city undetected for sometimes many years. Sob Story's biggest winner and loser is Otto Sump, who would become a recurring character, and many of his stories are worth checking out. And Dredd uses Otto to bait a trap for the killers. With the full extent of the Sob Story murders coming to life, the TV show is open to a string of lawsuits, and Johnny Teardrop himself becomes its final and most desperate contestant. A perfect satire of the entertainment industry, a great insight to the series' dark humour, its uncaring, brutal world, and the first appearance of one of its best supporting characters. Sob Story is a great place to start your Dredd journey. Number 4 on the list is The Muzak Killer, written by Garth Ennis with Dermot Power on art. The Muzak Killer is actually 2 stories collected in this edition. Both feature the lunatic Marty Spock, an antique music collector who takes issue with the processed and approved music of Mega City and goes on a murderous rampage. If you were alive in the UK of the late 80s or early 90s, then the victims of his killing spree, singers like Jazz Ramsey, Cos and Styrene Bogue, and my personal favourite, New Jews on the Sector, will be familiar to you. Spock listens to music on an old Walkman as he goes about his business, and lyrics from the old songs, probably not with permission, are quoted alongside the images of his violence. Ennis, not Wagner this time, is on Nostradamus duties, predicting all sorts of youth-on-youth culture-inspired violence. The story is darkly comic, but how close to reality it feels is just a little bit depressing in the 21st century. Spock returns after a spell in prison, with Dermot Power returning on art, and pokes fun at the way the supposed counterculture music is barely distinguishable from the dreary mainstream. If you can remember the dreadful TV show The Word, you will likely enjoy Spock's second killing spree as much as his first. The televised murder of its host is almost identical to the same scene in The Joker. Dredd's bullet leaves Spock with half a brain and a rewired taste in music, leaving him in a padded cell singing Kylie Minogue records to himself. This edition comes with a couple of other stories: The Wonderful Raider, Ennis again writing with John Burns on art, and this follows an ex-judge turned melancholy vigilante, and it would be near the top 10 of Dredd stories. And that's followed by the movie parody Teddy Chopper Mitts, and the less said about that one, the better, I think. My third choice is Judge Caligula, which began back when progs were in double figures, and is one of the first epic stories. Judge Cowell manipulates his way to the top job in Mega City 1, and then goes a little bit strange, appointing a fish as his deputy, pickling one of his aides, and then sentencing the entire city to death in alphabetical order, much to the chagrin of Aaron A. Aardvark, who changed his name to be first in the phone book. Dredd and a bunch of tutors from the academy lead the resistance. The story is absolutely bonkers. Hopefully I don't need to explain where the inspiration comes from. It includes a great supporting cast, including the popular mutant Fergie, Judge Giant, and an army of alien bodyguards. The art comes from the absolute legend that is Brian Bolland, as well as Mike McMahon, Brett Ewins, Ron Smith, Gary Leach, and possibly some others that I've forgotten. It's almost like a who's who of early 2000 AD artists, and the story captures the humour and general craziness of the Dredd universe really, really well. Some 700 issues after Judge Cowell, we come to number 2 and Democracy Now! Sadly, this edition, which is on screen, doesn't include the 2 stories that begin the build-up to this, which are Letter from a Democrat and Revolution. But in Democracy Now!, the pro-democracy and anti-judge movement, which began in those stories, has reached a tipping point, and after half the city was destroyed in the Necropolis story, Dredd feels like the judges need a new mandate to continue to rule. He grants the people a referendum against the wishes of some of his fellow judges. He then has to fight for his life against various attempts to kill him, and cancel the referendum, which the judges are convinced they'll lose. The art, initially from Jeff Anderson, is absolutely incredible. Look at this panel, it gives me chills. The second half, with art from John Burns, not quite so good, but still features some incredible moments. This is a great combination of a powerful story, phenomenal art, and when Blondel Dupree's democracy movement comes crashing down, the end of a great character arc. It's a shame it's not a complete collection in this edition, but other reprints are available. My number one choice is The Pitt, with art mostly by Dredd legend Carlos Esquerra and one of my favourites, Colin McNeil. Lee Sullivan also chips in, as does Alex McDonald, who's probably the weakest of the artists on show here. His work sometimes feels a little unfinished. Dredd is sent to the Pitt, Sector 301, whose judges are seriously underperforming, with the mandate to clean up the mess and get crime, especially organised crime orchestrated by the bonkers Fonzo Bongo, back under control. He butts head, or helmet at least, against the old guard resistant to change, while fostering what talent the department actually has. The series introduces fan favourite DeMarco, who would get her own series in the future. But my favourite is the undercover judge, feared to have gone native, the fabulously portrayed Guthrie. It's an amazingly judged depiction of judges, good and bad, going about their everyday business of law enforcement. It's very grounded compared to something like Judge Caligula, and even better for that contrast. It has real human drama, but contains some of that trademark Dredd humour as well. It's another judge priest who goes rogue, leading to the finest line of dialogue in the whole series. With great art, a brilliant characterisation, and a really mature and epic story, this wasn't just a return to form for Dredd so much as the perfect storm of everything that made Dredd great. Funny, beautiful and moving. It's a nearly perfect comic book. So, anyone who has made it to the end and is not frothing at the mouth about certain exclusions might like to know why some of the fan favourites of Judge Death didn't make the list. I'm not implying in any way that it means they're bad stories. They're just a lot of Dredd stories in 45 years worth of 2000 AD, as well as the Dredd Megazine, of course. Judge Death didn't make the top 5, though the first appearance, which does not come in this book, by the way, it's in this one, is also highly recommended, particularly because the first two are the first two stories to feature Judge Anderson, and another favourite, and because they both have art by Brian Bolland, who I cannot praise highly enough. The first appearance of Dredd, though, is quite low-key. It seems like he was just a monster of the week at first. This edition collects a few other Brian Bolland stories, including War Games, which is another commentary on TV, and the Philip K. Dick rip-off Forever Crimes, all of which are actually quite high-quality Dredd. Death himself became slightly more epic when the other Dark Judges, Fear, Mortis and Fire, appeared. The art of this series, again by Brian Bolland, is phenomenal. And it's really fitting that he was the one to capture this epic moment. However, the series kind of is resolved by brute strength, and it lacks a little bit of that spark of genius that the very best Dredd stories have. The Angel of Mercy, featuring the fabulous murderess Ula Blint, should have an honourable mention as well, especially the Christmas Angel, in which she gives people what she thinks they really deserve for Christmas, a gothic Santa at a stretch. You can tell when Wagner enjoys writing a character because they usually get away in the end. Jason Brashaw's art deserves a mention too, which was a real highlight when the older guard had moved on. Some people might have expected to see this list full of epics, and there are plenty to choose from. The Zelazny-inspired Cursed Earth is really strong, and recent reprints include the long-excluded Fast Food Wars, so they're worth checking out for that reason alone. The Judge Child story has its fans, but like Cursed Earth, for me it's just a bit too fragmented, a bit too sprawling and disjointed. The Apocalypse War that wiped out half the city, it's always half the city, isn't it, is good, but just like Death Lives, being long or having a large death count isn't enough. It needs something more cerebral to be among the best Dredd, and it doesn't have it. Block Mania, the Apocalypse War's prologue, is more fun and worth your time and money on its own. The first epic, depending on your opinion, was Call Me Kenneth's Robot Revolution from the early 2000 AD, and is a lot of fun. Necropolis, featuring Nausea and Phobia, the Sisters of Death, was split across both 2000 AD and the magazine, and I really disliked that idea at the time. Collected here and in order, and with a few years of hindsight, it's better than I remember, but it still feels a little bit lacking. One of the most loved characters from 2000 AD is the Super Surf champion Chopper, who appeared in a string of stories. All of them are good. The first Un-American Graffiti is perhaps the most memorable of first appearances, and he would return again and again, especially in the mega epic Oz. But Chopper's finest story is the Bloodbath of Super Surf 11, told in Song of the Surfer, written by Dredd creator Wagner and Colin McNeil again providing art, is not actually a Dredd story. Chopper had his own series by then. As you start filling out your collection, I have no doubt that Chopper will be among your favourites. He was one of the few comic characters to get an Easter egg in the Carl Urban Dredd movie. And my last honourable mention is for the Mega Rackets, an on-off series that looked into some of 2000 AD's weirder crimes such as contract killers and psychic mobsters. The latter story is particularly good, with a real 1940s organised crime film noir feel. And as with the best stories on the list, the extra kick is that Dredd isn't the one that gets his man, the mob, turn on their own when he becomes more trouble than benefit, sending the message that crime, like Mega City 1 itself, will likely rumble on forever. So if you agree with my choices on art, feel free to comment down below. And if you like this video, like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video, which is likely to be some sort of book review or other book related content. And if that sounds like something you'll enjoy, then don't forget to ring the bell and you'll never miss a video that I upload. See you in the next one. Bye.